Welcome to the Faroe Islands. Within the next 10 minutes, we are going to discover the destination and you will be able to understand what makes this destination excellent. The following overview reflects the approach towards identifying dimensions of excellence. Let's take a closer look. The Faroe Islands are located between Iceland, Norway, and the United Kingdom. It is part of the Danish crown, yet has an own sovereign government. The majority of the population lives on the capital island, leaving the remaining 17 islands sparsely populated. This is resulting in the destination's unique characteristic of its untouched nature. Now, let's dive into the destination. Aside from its stunning rocky landscape, the island is known for its wildlife and the fishing industry. The Faroe people have their very own way of living with the island's characteristics. Shaped by rough weather conditions, the lifestyle and the culture reflect a basic yet practical way of living.
Continuing, we would like to highlight some aspects of the DMO's internal operations that we consider to be especially excellent, starting with giving you an insight into some very successful marketing and PR campaigns of the Faroe Islands. The DMO managed to create some very successful low-budget campaigns by making use of actual challenges they were facing. We would like to highlight especially two of them. The first one is the Google Sheep View campaign, which was a project they started because the Faroe Islands were not represented on Google's Street View. So they simply mounted cameras on the backs of many of their over 80,000 sheep on the islands, which resulted in a detailed 360-degree map of the islands. Google itself was very impressed by the initiative and eventually sent resources to help with the realization. As you can see, this creative campaign resulted in quite some astonishing numbers when it comes to the outcome. They estimated a resulted PR value of over $80 million, which eventually contributed to a 17% increase in passenger and overnight numbers in 2017. Secondly, we would like to highlight the response campaign to the COVID-19 pandemic called Remote Tourism, where they were offering virtual tours held by voluntary locals. Tourists were able to log into an online platform and give directions to their local tour guide, who was exploring the island while recording a live video. Also, this campaign was quite successful. Between 20 and 40,000 people logged into the tours only in the first month, and the project was eventually extended until June. As proof for its effectiveness, the increased relative search results are visualized in the graph below, where you can also observe how other campaigns affected the interest in the search term Faroe Islands. Another indicator for the destination's excellence is how well the destination's core characteristics, which are defined in their brand slogan, unspoiled, unexplored, unbelievable, are aligned with the perception of the destination in the international media. Next, we would like to highlight the tourism development strategy of the Faroe Islands for 2025. There are a few aspects we would like to emphasize. First, they put a lot of effort into research before starting with the actual planning aspect. They conducted surveys with almost 1,300 tourists, many interviews with tourism stakeholders and locals, hosted workshops, and even did a study trip to Iceland to learn from their competitor. The findings of their research resulted in 4 clear strategic goals. The strategies and goals are not only of theoretical nature, but are accompanied by detailed implementation plans as well as an identification of what are the key partners to achieve those goals and detailed annual action plans. What we would like to especially highlight are the measurements they set for themselves in terms of their success. We believe that this represents quite clearly that they are taking a sustainable approach to their tourism development. They do not only consider the economic benefit of tourism, but also how well visitors are satisfied with the promise that the Faroe Islands are making as a brand and the acceptance of tourism under the local population.
Now, let's shift our attention to the traveler. Travelers are mainly looking for stunning scenery, northern lights, and midnight sun. As a result, the Faroe Islands are competing with Iceland and Greenland. Factors that differentiate the destination are the untouched nature and traditional villages. Factors of concern are the destination's expensiveness, coldness, bad weather, and general accessibility. Nevertheless, 97% of all visitors are satisfied with their trip, and even 68% want to come back a second time.
The tourism industry has a relatively low economic contribution to the GDP. Nevertheless, this makes the overall economy less dependent on this industry stream and more resilient to any tourism crisis. Important source markets are Denmark, Norway and Germany, whereas 58% are leisure guests. However, the business segment has seen a significant increase since 2017. This is a result of the investments made in the MICE segment, as it has been shown that this segment is less affected by seasonality.
Speaking of seasonality, the lower graph represents the booked rooms since 2013, showing the impact of the seasons on the booking behavior. On the other hand, the upper graph shows the overall room capacity. However, it is of importance to note that on average the visitor numbers increased steadily by around 10% each year since 2013, which is reflected in the increase in booked rooms. The impact of COVID-19 can be observed as the lowest point of occupancy. Additionally, it shows that there was a moderate impact after reopening the borders, which was mainly due to domestic tourism. In order to draw conclusions, we examined the Faroe Islands by the listed categories. We have chosen these 6 categories which are most significant for placing the destination within the model. Firstly, they exemplify quantitative measures as well as symbolize and indicate the dependency onto tourism. Secondly, the last categories are an indicator for environmental and social impacts on the destination. We used the destination lifecycle by Butler to examine the current situation of the Faroe Islands as a tourism destination. Furthermore, Iceland has been identified as a competing destination previously and will find its place shortly within the model. Due to aforementioned information, the Faroe Islands can be described as a destination in the growth phase. In comparison, Iceland can be positioned much further in the life cycle because of a higher dependency of the general economy on the tourism industry. Therefore, the Faroe Islands have potential for controlled growth, and Iceland is at the turning point of local and tourism satisfaction. It needs to be highlighted that the tourism development strategy aims at achieving healthy and steady growth, whereas tourism never reaches the unsustainable levels as of now. This is visualized in the dotted line. The next aspects deal with the external environment. This slide we present you the most important and significant global trends with regards to our destination. Such trends including globalization, the need for green destinations by the tourist, the ongoing digitalization and the increase in technology used among tourists.
This slide summarizes all opportunities and threats which are the result of our external scan, as well as all strengths and weaknesses which are the result of the internal scan. In order to make our evaluation of excellence waterproof, we need to understand the future strategic directions of the Faroe Islands and its most important challenges. For that purpose, we used a confrontation matrix which correlates internal and external factors leading to long-term oriented strategic directions. The outcome allows us to understand how the current and future strategy maintains and/or expands the areas of excellence. The most significant correlations are highlighted dark. The confrontation matrix can be divided into 4 strategic directions. The sum of all points in one quadrant indicates its relevance. The strategic directions resulting out of the cumulative value of the quadrants indicate the areas of excellence of the Faroe Islands distinctively. The destination should continue to efficiently use their limited resources to present the destination to the world while preserving the core of the destination's value, which can be described as quality over quantity for all stakeholders. They are able to grow by making the best use of their strength and use their excellence for successful future tourism development. Considering the second quadrant, referring to the defense strategy, the destination should continue investing into their strong brand and online appearance to differentiate themselves by creatively communicating their unique characteristics in an excellent manner from seemingly similar competitors. The following 2 quadrants refer to areas that include internal changes to manage weaknesses. As for the improvement strategy, the important future challenges for the Faroe Islands include balancing out unevenly distributed tourist flows over the seasons, as well as continuing efforts to differentiate themselves from their main competitors through a more individualistic and customized product offering. The last strategic direction again indicates excellence, as the weaknesses do not correlate significantly with external threats. Even with one significant correlation, the weight of the upper 2 strategic directions leaves enough strategic leeway for future excellence, thus to be disregarded.